Good evening, viewers, and welcome to tonight's live webcast. The theme, as usual these days, is open questions and answers. So tonight I'm relying on you all sending me some questions, which you would do using the live chat next to the video here on YouTube. And when you've done so, my colleague will relay your questions to me on the iPad next to me. Obviously, the last major event that we had was the release of Capture 2025 a few weeks ago. So I'm looking forward to some maybe 2025 related questions. I've also prepared a few things to warm you up with, in case there isn't a barrage of questions instantly. So please send me questions and I'll start talking a bit in the meanwhile. So let's switch over to my computer. And I'm going to start with reminding everyone that we have a showcase reward program. A good way of learning more about it is by clicking on Showcases on our website, and then the I don't know what this one is called in English, but the one where it says Submit Your Shows, we call it PUF in Swedish. I'm sure that's not the English name. So here you can read about our Showcase Reward program and how you can submit pictures and information from a show you've done using Capture to us. And if we end up promoting it on our website and in social media, then you will get a free upgrade to the next major version of Capture. Now, there is a selection process involved here, and since we are looking to make use of your submission in our marketing effectively, we are looking forward to some pretty pictures and in particular comparison of renders versus reality. But all of that is mentioned here, so read through the page so that you know what you need to submit, and then, with a little bit of luck and skill of course, you might end up getting your show featured on our website and in our social media. So click on Showcases on the website and then the PUF, which is called Submit Your Show, for a chance to get a free upgrade, and read all about it on this page. As I mentioned, we released Capture 2025 recently. And if you're curious about what's new in Capture 2025, then from our webpage again, and the top right corner, PUF, you can follow the link here to the page that presents all the news in Capture 2025. I'm sure most of you have already seen this page. So I'm going to move on to the downloads page, where perhaps not all of you have found the link to the upgrade notes page. This one is particularly useful if you are upgrading from an earlier version of Capture to 2025. Then this has some of the most important bits of information for you as an upgrader, in particular about important changes in 2025. So for instance, here we mention that Cinema 4D support was discontinued and what we recommend that you do instead. There's also a mention of some behavioral changes in the user interface that one of them I'm actually planning to show you a little bit about tonight. We also had some issues with 3D connection devices on release, although those have been resolved now, which brings me to the third item on my list, which is not this page, sorry. If you go to the forum on our website under Support Forum, then there is a section here called General Announcements, which I do recommend that you subscribe to. So once you've logged on to our website, there is a little button you can click here to subscribe to the forum. Because occasionally we make technical announcements here that don't make it into a blog post, but that are still relevant to know about. So for instance, I made a post here about the 3D connection device issues having been resolved, so that's a piece of useful information. I also posted when we released 2025 Mark 1, and with a bit of extra information about the changes in there for those who are more interested in the details, like you might be since you're watching this webcast. So I'm trying to show you some good sources of additional information on our website. So if you've been using Capture for a while, you're probably very quickly clicking through to where you get, but occasionally there are some changes here, like the upgrade notes, which I think we only added 1 or 2 years ago, for instance. So I can see we are already have a few questions at least. So I'm still going to start off with a couple of things that I had in store for tonight. And the first one is based on a question from the Capture Design and Visualization group on Facebook. And it was Leor Maital Hoffman who asked questions about the intensity scale feature in Capture. So for those of you, if you know, you know, as they say. So I'm going to add a couple of fixtures to a blank project. 10 Viper XIPs. And I'm going to switch to the live mode and turn them on. Now, there's no special reason for using the Viper XIPs. I don't think there's anything wrong with them. But if you do want to change the intensity of fixtures in the visualization, we've long had a property called intensity scale, which used to be available here under selected items, but it has been moved. And that's one of the things you can read about in the upgrade notes on our website. So, but what I want to show you is if you want to change the intensity scale of many fixtures, if you have selected them all beforehand and you then double click to edit the correction, then you are taken to a new correction for this type of fixture where the intensity scale property is. And at this point, that correction has already been applied to all of the fixtures I had selected. So if I change the intensity scale here now, I just have to make Capture a little bit larger. Then that intensity scale gets applied to all of the fixtures, as you can see. Now, once I've done that, if I want to add more fixtures of this type, if I clone existing fixtures, then these automatically get the same correction too. But if I add a brand new fixture from the library, then that one does not have the correction yet. And in that case, I can simply drag and drop the correction on top of that fixture. And if the fixtures are kind of scattered across your project and they are not easy to select, then another useful command is the select all by fixture type command. And this selects all fixtures of the same type. And once you've done that, again, you can drag and drop the correction and it gets applied to all of those fixtures. So despite the fact that we made it a little bit harder to access intensity scale for many fixtures, here are some tricks at least to help you work around that in a manner of speaking. Another question that popped up on social media was asked by James Neely. He was looking to upgrade, I think, from a Duet to a Quartet edition. And he's working in an environment with many universes on the network, but he was only interested in using 4 of them, and they weren't necessarily universes 1 to 4, but let's say maybe 1, 3, 6, 7. And he was asking, whether you can do that with a Quartet edition, and the short answer is yes. Now, by default, now I'm running the demo of Capture here, but if you have a Quartet edition and you start a new project, then by default you have 4 universes. Now, if you have a DMX source on the network, I'm going to start Magic Queue here, which outputs, I've set it to output 8 universes. Then what happens is that the first 4 are automatically mapped to the 4 universes in Capture. But first of all, you can rename the universes in Capture. So if you want universes 1, 4, 8, and 10, you can rename them that way. And you can also cherry pick the ArtNet universes that you are using by manually going in and selecting them. So you can, in fact, pick any universes from the network and assign them to the universes in your design as you wish. So a Quartet edition is not limited to a consecutive series of, let's say, ArtNet or streaming ACN universes. You can mix and match. And with that, I'm going to move on to the questions from you guys, which I see coming in. I may not be able to show something meaningful for all of them, so we'll see how that goes. The first question comes from Alex Nestorov and is related to VR support, specifically the MetaQuest 3, I believe. And whether we have any plans or whether it's on our roadmap to support this. So I would say that it is our ambition to support VR at some point. The only thing that kind of prevents us is having good enough performance. But it is something we keep getting closer to as we progress. But we don't have any active plans. It's not on the near horizon, as I would say, so it's not within the next 1 year at least that we would have VR support. But it is something we are hoping to do, definitely. Moving on, well, another question also from Alex Nestorov is related to mirror balls and whether we have mirror balls on our roadmap. Here I am more hopeful than VR. We do have ambitions of doing something with mirror balls. Now, there's a very big difference from doing something basic that fakes the effect to something that is absolutely physically correct. So I think what's going to happen is that we do something half fake, and then maybe over time that thing gets better and better. But it is one of the most requested features for Capture. So it is definitely on our radar to try and do something with mirror balls for sure. Now, having said that, several users have come up with clever workarounds for mirror balls. So the best way to find them is, again, on that Facebook user group, Capture Design and Visualization. If you search for mirror ball, and please do search and don't ask immediately because it is a tiring question by now. You will find some creative solutions, including a ball where they've rigged park hands inside it, pointing in different directions, and so on. So there are some half-good ways of working around it. Next, we have a question from Paul Rosinski related to OSC networking. Seems Paul keeps getting an error message. Now this is pretty detailed and I don't have a good answer like that. So Paul, it's probably best if you email us at support@capture.se so that we can help you try to determine what's wrong. Now, we're probably going to ask you to, for instance, open the connectivity status to see what's going on here. Although, given the message, OSC is probably not lit up in this case. If you go into the options of Capture under connectivity and you scroll down a bit, you will see that there are some OSC settings. And what may be happening is that a firewall or security setting is preventing capture from listening to OSC on that network interface. So you may end up having to change the interface here, for instance. But we will have to speak with you to sort it out in more detail, I believe. Next, we have a question from Dylan Haley regarding 3D mouse, which I suspect in this case is a 3D connection device, more specifically one of these guys. And Dylan is asking, is there a way to lock in top view when using a 3D mouse? Now, unfortunately, I don't have one installed on the laptop I have here, but as of Capture 2025, it is the 3D connection settings application that gives you all the different options for the 3D mouse. Let's check in case I do have it. No, I don't. So if you have installed the 3D connection drivers, then on Mac, you would have a 3D connection entry in the system settings. And in Windows, you would have a 3D connection icon in the status bar at the bottom of your screen, where you can open the settings and control panel for 3D connection and make different options. I don't think there is a way of locking to top view, to be honest. But go through the settings and check if there is anything useful. Otherwise, I would recommend that you post maybe a feature request, again, on our forum under feature requests, and write a few lines about locking the 3D connection mouse to top view. It's always good if you write on the forum, because sometimes other users chime in and add valuable information to your original feature request. And sometimes we also ask a few questions back and can plan better thanks to that. Next, we have a question from Vilmar Olos. Vilmar is asking whether there is any possibility in the future to have assigned sequentially for other bits of information. So let's see if we have. Let's open something simple. My laptop here is pretty basic. Let's also kill Magic Q. There we go. So I get rid of the DMX universes, and then I will reopen the project file. There. So in the edit menu, we have a number of sequential commands for unit, circuit, patch, channel, and these days also a P3 fixture number. And yes, we have thoughts of expanding this one to other bits of information too. Now, you mentioned specifically the you write localization, but you mean location, I think. The property called, it's supposed to be here, location. To be honest, it seems a bit odd that you would have a number of fixtures on a truss, for instance, and you want to number the locations. So this is an example where I would be quite curious to understand better how you work with locations, because usually you might have one location per bar or truss construction. So I'm not sure how you would use a tool like that. So please, again, post this on the feature request forum so we can ask you a few questions back, so that we don't spend time adding something and then it's all wrong. Moving on to Alexandros Politiakis. Alexandros is asking, is there any plan to include hatch pattern functionality in future updates of Capture, like in AutoCAD? Here I think I can confidently say no. Hatch patterns are historically a way of indicating cross sections of things like solid walls. So it's a way of giving an appearance of something being solid in a wireframe world. We've had some ideas of how to create a similar kind of effect more automatically without manually having to generate hatches. But I'm afraid it's not high on our priority list, to be honest. So don't hold your breath for this one. It could be quite some time before we do anything like that. Moving on, we have a question from Jeff Edwards. What is something you are working towards for 2026? That is relatively early to be asking questions like that, but we are, of course, already working on Capture 2026. So that is true. Of course, we are working on going further with the corrections that we introduced in 2025. Here we added the ability to get a curve for zoom parameters, as well as having curves for Gobo rotation speed. So there are some other obvious fixture properties that we want to allow you to give corrections for, like the iris response, framing, shutter, positioning. In theory, the list can be made pretty long. So that's one area. We are also working on implementing our own rendering of a number of views in Capture and not relying so much on the Mac OS or Windows. So for instance, the appearance in the property list is technically different today from what happens in a table view like the Fixtures tab. And once these work the same way, we can also work on things like a hierarchy in the layers view, which is something people have been asking for very long. So delivering on some kind of hierarchy solution in the layers view is a very high priority for 2026, and something that we have been working towards for a couple of years, but it has required a few other things to fall in place before that. And of course, improving performance, making the rendering appear better. I'm less keen on sharing the details about that one. But yeah, that was a lot of information actually, so I should probably shut up there. Let's move on to the next question from Beam on Lightworks. Will there be a Grand MA2 support for Mac OS? No, there will not. MA did not add Mac OS support until MA3, and the way we receive MA universes is by using a piece of software from MA. And if they don't give us a piece of Mac software, we cannot receive it. And they are not going to do that for MA2. They've done it for MA3, so realistically, it's not going to happen. You will have to switch over to MA3 in order to get DMX into Capture on a Mac. Having said that, if you are not relying on the Viz key to increase the number of parameters, that is, if you have actual hardware to cover the amount of parameters you will be outputting, then you could as well use streaming ACN or ArtNet to get the DMX into Capture. And using MANet 2 actually doesn't add anything. It's not better or faster in any way than ArtNet or streaming ACN. So if you have the hardware to unlock the parameters, you might as well just use ArtNet or streaming ACN anyway. And that works on a Mac, so there's that. Then we move on to another question from Alex Nestorov. He's asking, is there a way to create unidirectional material so that walls, for example, can be seen through from outside the room? And the answer to that is yes. I'm going to use the somewhat unusual black box object from the library. This one is, as the name implies, really just an open top shoebox. And I'm going to add, I'm all about Viper XIPs at the moment. Once I've learned to type a fixture name quickly, I tend to go back to that. There were a lot of MMX spots for a while, because that's easy to type as well. So let's have some ambient lighting as well. So here we have a fixture now inside the box, and obviously from outside the room we can't see inside it. But we can create a material assign that to the black box. Let's assign it to the walls. And then there is a clever property called double-sided. If we turn that off, what happens is that the polygons are only visible from one side, i.e. they are one-sided as opposed to double-sided. Now if you draw your own objects or import objects, then you will have to pay attention to which side of the polygon are forward facing, as it's called, as that controls which direction you can see through. But the black box object has been cleverly done in a way that they are already facing in the direction you would want, so that you can actually sort of always see through the outer walls. So by using the double-sided property in material, you can have surfaces that are transparent from one direction. And Alex just found it himself, but never mind, I had something to speak about, so I'm happy anyway. Then we will move on to, and this one is not easy to pronounce, Lamaramaman, who is asking, will you work on making visualization better for lenses? I mean in the sense of how accurate the looks are for the light emitted from the fixture. In Capture, it's a bit blurry / oversized. This is definitely something that we will be working on. It comes with many challenges, such as the fact that there are many different types of lenses that behave differently. There's a big difference between like an open-faced soft light like we have in the studio here, or a moving head with Gobo projections where the light source is actually far inside a tube. But this is an area of some focus actually for 2026, so yes. Then we have another question from Dylan Haley. Is the general workflow to build custom stage sets to be built in another CAD program and import into Capture? So yes, the answer is yes, generally speaking. So our focus for Capture is to create a lighting design software, with the focus being on lighting design, as opposed to 3D modeling, scenic design, or architectural CAD. There are many different terms here. So Capture is not intended primarily to be the CAD software in which you draw the room. In many cases, there are already drawings available for your room, and there are many other softwares out there that are very good at that kind of aspect of things. So we try to focus on what we're good at, and that is lighting design. So Historically, we used to really promote SketchUp, at least when SketchUp was completely free. SketchUp is a great tool for designing rooms, I guess is the word, stages, buildings. It has very easy to use tools and good measurement tools. I know some people say that it's not precise or exact. The truth is that SketchUp is incredibly precise and exact, but you need to get used to how to work with the dimensioning tools in there in order to draw things. Now, in the last 2 years, we have also been promoting Blender a lot. Blender is free, and it also has an advanced, it has the level of material editing that you would expect from a 3D software these days, specifically the PBR material workflow. So if you have a scale between AutoCAD and 3D Studio, where AutoCAD is obviously the more old school CAD software and 3D Studio is more of a game design oriented modeling thing, SketchUp is closer to AutoCAD and Blender is maybe then closer to 3D Studio in that sense. So if you are coming from a Vectorworks or AutoCAD background where you are used to drawing things by dimensions using lines, then you will struggle a bit in Blender. Now there are some good add-ons in fact in Blender. There's one called CAD Transform, which we use ourselves to make Blender a little bit more AutoCAD-ish or easier to draw things to dimensions. So yes, generally we advocate that you draw your room in another software and import it into Capture. Having said that, we do have the shapes in the library for creating very simple stuff. Forms, we call them forms, for quickly adding a curtain or a cylinder, modifying its dimensions, and so on. So if you're just doing something very quick, then usually you can get away without the proper stage design. We also have the polygon shape, which when you go into editing mode, you can actually edit it using dimensions and create some pretty advanced constructions using this tool as well when you need to draw something 2 dimensions. But that's about as far as you would get in Capture at the moment. That was a long rant, sorry. Dylan Haley is also asking, is there a way to build a sign that lights up per letter? I think the best way would be to have the sign drawn in another software, import the model into Capture, and then you could work with the texture generator in materials. It's under the luminance section in the material, and here you can create a material that is DMX controlled, and you could have 1 segment per letter in the texture and then light the letters using a DMX channel per letter, for instance. I would recommend that you go to the support documentation section on our webpage and look up the tutorial video we have on texture generators, because there I explain how to use them, and I think you will see quite quickly how you could adapt that to your situation. Next we have, I believe, a feature request from Andreas Monschauer. Hi, Andreas. Can we simply offset all ArtNet universes to start from ArtNet 1 instead of ArtNet 0? So I will treat that as a feature request, which means we will think about it. I will think about it. We do need to make some improvements to the Universes tab for the next version of Capture for sure. And this is a good suggestion actually. So quite possibly, yes. Moving on to a question from Viso. Are you working on .ifc support for capture? What is an IFC file? Autodesk IFC. Industry foundation classes. So this will be about BIM, BIM workflows, I suppose. We haven't looked a lot at BIM workflows at all, to be honest. It's probably not a top priority at the moment. There are other file formats in that bag of things to look at. But please put it on the feature request forum. Let's see how many people like it, comment on it, and perhaps it's something we could prioritize for the future. I see my colleague. If I had read all the text on my iPad here, I wouldn't have had to Google it, but okay. So we are getting close to the end of the webcast, so I will do 2 or 3 more questions, but then I fear my voice is going to not hold up much longer. Moving on to another question from Alexandros Politiakis. How would you recommend displaying vertical booms and include them on the light plot? I've tried several times, but the section view ends up looking a bit messy. This is a challenge indeed. I don't think I have any good example here. Let's just put a few fixtures vertically. Hello, Viper. Let's have 3 more vertically. So here we have 4 vertically stacked fixtures. Now, Alexandros was asking about section views, actually. So I think section views are maybe the easy ones, but it doesn't really matter which view. So, I mean, the main trick in Capture is to work with the paper adjustments. So in the edit menu, plot adjustments, you can enable and disable plot adjustments, and that is when the little chain link becomes broken in the user interface. When the chain link is broken, then you can move a fixture on the plot without moving it physically in the real world. And that way, in the plot view, you can create something that looks like this instead of all the symbols being on top of each other. And you can do the same thing in the section view too, like this. Now you can see when an object is selected that there is a shadow drawn that indicates the original position of the fixture too, to help you when doing this. But at the end of the day, you have to select the fixtures one by one and do this kind of plot adjustments in order to lay them out in a way that makes sense to you in your plot, because it will depend a lot on what else is in your plot that is also getting in the way. And this is pretty much the only tool we have for you in this situation. Moving on to Lamara Maman with a follow-up question. Will you also work on how accurate gobos are rendered in haze smoke? Repeating feedback is that we're not able to make the focus sharp enough mid-air. So here it's important to keep in mind that there's a difference between what you see in live visualization and the kind of quality you get if you render a view using the render command, or if you have recorded a movie snapshot that you render to a movie file. You will never be able to get the same level of quality in real time as you will with an offline render. And the level of quality of gobos in real time generally depends simply on the performance of your computer and the settings you have for your visualization. So let's see if we have something more meaningful. They are too narrow. That's not a good example fixture. Let's pick something else. We have some DLXs. So this one. Okay, that not well prepared for this, but I'm guessing you are referring to what the beam looks like in the air and how sharp and crisp that appears. So if your computer is struggling with the performance, then the automatic quality in the visualization settings is going to sacrifice the quality on screen for frame rate. And we have a slider here where you can prioritize between detail and frame rate. So this might help you to actually nudge capture towards a higher level of detail rather than a higher level of frame rate in that case. But in general, with performance improvements in the next version, we can make room for higher quality visualization, for instance. So the way we will deliver on what you're asking for is by improving performance, because by doing that, we can also render at a higher level of quality. And the last question will be from Beam on Lightworks. Will there be something like transparent LED walls? At the risk of misunderstanding the question, we do have transparent LED walls in the library already. I believe that row has a series called Vanish, for instance, which makes capture vanish. I have an issue with the library installation on this computer that I should have fixed. So sorry about that. So either way, my point being is that we already have transparent LED panels in the library. And you can even create your own ones using the generic panel. So let's see if we can find. It might crash on me again, unfortunately. Yeah, sorry, I should have fixed this. But we have transparent panels in the library, and you can even edit the generic one to become transparent. Unfortunately, I can't show you, and I don't think we have a tutorial on it either. But if you email support@capture.se, we can send you some extra information on how to do that as well. All right, at that point, I think it's time to end the webcast for tonight. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon again. And thank you all for your great questions. Have a nice evening and see you soon again. Goodbye.